They learn to steal before they learn to read, the officer muttered, yanking a 6-year-old black boy off a patch of grass like he was bagging up evidence. His scooter lay abandoned on the ground, wheels still spinning, as if the innocence of childhood was trying to keep going, despite the injustice that just struck. The boy's only crime, waiting outside a pharmacy while his mom picked up her prescription. No questions, no compassion, just zip ties and humiliation under the afternoon sun. If this story makes your stomach turn, you're not alone. Because when a child can't ride a scooter without being treated like a threat, something is broken, and that something needs to be called out loudly. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear from you. And if you believe stories like this need to be told, hit subscribe. Together, we can be louder than silence. The sun hung low in the Georgia sky, casting long golden rays over the quiet streets of Savannah. It was the kind of spring afternoon that felt like a deep breath, warm, slow, familiar. Birds chirped lazily from the magnolia trees, and lawn sprinklers hissed in steady rhythm across the trimmed yards of Oakwood Estates, a suburban neighborhood known more for its silence than its stories. Miles Tate, just 6 years old, zipped along the narrow sidewalk outside his home on a bright blue scooter, a birthday gift from his mom. His helmet bobbed with every bump, and the digital watch strapped around his small wrist glowed with a blinking green dot. Location tracking active. He wasn't allowed past the park bench across the street, but that was fine. His mom had taught him rules meant safety, and Miles liked feeling safe. Just stay close to the pharmacy, baby, his mom had said as she leaned into the car to grab her purse. I'll be right back. Mommy just needs to pick up her medicine. Miles had nodded solemnly, gripping the scooter's handlebars tighter. He didn't like when his mom looked tired, and lately she looked that way a lot. Inside the corner pharmacy, Gloria Tate was waiting at the counter, her insurance card and prescription slip already in the technician's hand. A nurse for nearly 30 years, Gloria knew how to read exhaustion, not just in others but in herself. After finishing a brutal double shift at the city hospital, her bones ached. But the refill couldn't wait. Blood pressure didn't care about fatigue. Out front, Miles rolled slowly past the curb, turning onto a narrow strip of grass near the edge of the sidewalk. He made figure eights with the scooter, humming to himself as the wheels whispered against the concrete. A gentle breeze tousled the edges of his t-shirt. He was thinking about nothing in particular, maybe chocolate ice cream later, maybe cartoons, when the police SUV pulled up. Officer Rick Coleman leaned one elbow out of the driver's side window, a half-empty coffee cup resting near the gearshift. He had seen the boy from a block away, dark skin glinting in the sun, moving quickly across the lawn. Coleman's eyes narrowed. Something about the way the boy moved. It made him suspicious. You see that, Miller? He said to his partner, a younger man in the passenger seat, scrolling aimlessly on his phone. What's a kid like that doing unsupervised around here? Miller looked up briefly. Looks like he's just playing, sir. Yeah, Coleman sneered. Or casing a car. They learn young these days. He threw the car into park and stepped out, the vehicle's heavy door groaning as it opened. Miles froze, one foot still on his scooter. His eyes widened as the large man in uniform approached him quickly, his hand resting on his belt. Hey, Coleman barked. What are you doing on this property, boy? Miles looked around, confused. I'm just riding my scooter. This isn't your yard, is it? You got permission to be here. I ought to know, Miles stammered. It's grass. I wasn't hurting nothing. Coleman's lip curled. Answer the question. Who's your guardian? Where's your mama? She's in the pharmacy, Miles whispered, pointing toward the brick storefront across the street. Oh sure, Coleman muttered. Let me guess she sent you out here to scope the neighborhood. Before Miles could say another word, Coleman reached down, gripped the boy's wrist, and yanked him toward the squad car. The scooter fell to the ground with a clatter. Hey! Oh! Please don't, Miles cried. Stop resisting, Coleman snapped, pulling a zip tie from his belt. You little punks think you can just roam around? Not on my watch. Miller had exited the car now, clearly uncomfortable. Sir, I really don't think. Did I ask you to think? Coleman snapped. You've got a lot to learn. Inside the pharmacy, Gloria was signing a clipboard when her smartwatch buzzed. One glance and her heart stopped. The green dot representing Miles had moved off the sidewalk. Her thumb tapped the alert icon. The live feed from the watch's camera blinked on, shaky, upside down, showing grass, shoes, a flashing siren light. Excuse me, she said, her voice sharp. She grabbed her purse and bolted through the front doors, heart pounding in her ears. As she reached the sidewalk, she saw it, her baby, hands bound, being pushed into the back seat of a police cruiser. "Miles," she screamed, running. Coleman turned at the sound. "Ma'am, stay back. This child is being detained for suspicious behavior." "He's 6, Gloria shouted, fury choking her voice. "He's my son." "You got proof of that?" Coleman asked, smug. Gloria fumbled for her phone, showing pictures, IDs, the medical bracelet from the ER just days before. But Coleman waved it off. "I'm calling a supervisor," she said, fingers dialing furiously. "Oh, please do," Coleman chuckled. "See how that goes." But what Coleman didn't know, what none of them knew, was that Gloria's father was Walter Tate, a name that still made seasoned agents in the Department of Justice sit up straighter. And Walter wasn't just any former federal agent. He had spent his career tearing down systems that protected men like Coleman. And right now Walter was already getting in the car. The drive to the precinct was silent, but it wasn't the kind of silence that brought calm. It was heavy, like pressure building inside a balloon, ready to burst. Miles sat in the back seat of the cruiser, his small body trembling, his hands zip-tied in front of him. His lip quivered as tears tracked silently down his cheeks. He didn't understand why the man had grabbed him, why the grass was suddenly forbidden, why being outside had turned into something scary. Coleman glanced in the rearview mirror and scoffed. "Save the tears, kid. You got caught. It's that simple." Miller sat beside him in the front, staring ahead, his jaw clenched. He hadn't said a word since they pulled away from the pharmacy. His hands sat rigid on his thighs, fingers twitching. Something about all this felt wrong, very wrong, but Coleman had a way of bulldozing through doubt. Back at the pharmacy, Gloria's fingers trembled as she opened her phone contacts. The first name she tapped read Dad. It rang twice before a calm voice answered. "Hey, sweetie." "Dad, they've taken Miles," she gasped. "A cop," he grabbed him off the grass by the pharmacy, said he was being suspicious. "They zip-tied him." "Dad, he's 6. There was a pause. Not the confused kind, but the kind where someone switches modes completely. "Where are you now?" Walter Tate's voice was sharp, focused. "I'm in front of the pharmacy. I tried to stop them, but they wouldn't listen. I think they took him to the 14th Street precinct." "Stay there. Don't move. I'll handle it." Walter hung up. He moved like a man decades younger, pulling on a jacket and grabbing a black case from the corner of his home office. He hadn't worn his badge in years, but the weight of what it stood for had never left his shoulders. As he started the car, he dialed another number, one not stored in his phone, but one he knew by heart. "Ramirez," came the voice on the other end. "It's Tate. We've got a problem. A child. My grandson." The car's tires screeched as he pulled out of his driveway. At the precinct, Officer Coleman strutted through the side entrance with Miles in tow. The boy stumbled as he walked, still trying to catch his breath between sobs. A few officers at the booking desk looked up, eyebrows raised. "What do you bring in? Rick, kindergarten kingpin?" Coleman chuckled. "Trespassing, loitering, and resisting. This one's going to grow up to be a real charmer." None of them laughed. The tone was off. Something about the boy's tear-streaked face, the way his small arms trembled. It didn't sit right. "Where's his guardian?" a young sergeant asked, rising slightly from his seat. "Some woman at the pharmacy. Claimed to be his mom. Got mouthy real quick. I'll write her up if she comes near the building." Another officer leaned over, whispering, "You sure you want to go this route, man? He looks like a baby." "He was on private property," Coleman snapped. "And I'm not going to apologize for doing my job." In the corner, Miles sat on a bench too big for him, his feet not even touching the floor. His face was pale, eyes darting toward every loud noise, every slammed door. No one talked to him. No one comforted him. To them, he was a case number, not a kid. 23 minutes later, the front doors of the precinct swung open. Walter Tate walked in like a thunderclap, wrapped in a tailored suit. His eyes scanned the room, sharp, calculated, and cold. He moved with the authority of a man who'd spent his life dealing with lies and cutting through them like a blade through silk. The desk officer blinked. "Sir, can I help?" Walter didn't stop walking. "Where is he?" "Excuse me." "My grandson." "Where is?" The sergeant stood, hesitating. "Sir, I'll need your name." Walter reached into his jacket and flashed a badge. Not local, not state, federal. The gold gleamed under the fluorescent light, and suddenly the air in the room changed. Walter Tate, retired special agent in charge, DOJ Civil Rights Division. Where is my grandson? Miller, who had been in the hallway sipping bad coffee, froze mid-step when he saw Walter. His heart dropped. He knew that name. Everyone in federal enforcement knew that name. He's in the holding area, Miller mumbled. Walter turned slowly. And you are? Miller. Officer David Miller. Did you arrest the child? No, sir. That was Officer Coleman. Then get me Coleman. Now. Coleman was laughing near the break room when the message came through. Some guy's looking for you. Says he's FBI. Coleman rolled his eyes. Retired guys love flexing. Probably just some wannabe with a badge from a cereal box. But the moment he stepped into the booking area and saw Walter standing by the bench where Miles sat, something inside him faltered. Walter didn't speak immediately. He knelt beside Miles, his voice gentle. Are you okay, buddy? Miles blinked up at him, lip trembling. Grandpa? Walter nodded, brushing a hand over the boy's hair. I'm here. Then he stood and turned to Coleman. You laid hands on a 6-year-old. You zip-tied him. You dragged him across public grass in front of witnesses. Did you confirm his identity? Did you question him with an adult present? Did you even read him his rights? Coleman bristled. He looked suspicious. He wasn't where he should be. You're a disgrace, Walter said, low and sharp. And I'm not going to let you disappear this like all your other incidents. He pulled out his phone and made a single call. This is Walter Tate. Activate protocol. Savannah Precinct. Civil rights alert. We need eyes on this building in 20 minutes. And then he turned to the desk officer. Until the agents arrive, no one moves this child, no one touches this child, and if anyone even tries to delete a single frame of body cam footage, well, they'll be watching the rest of their career play out from behind a courtroom witness stand. The room was silent. Coleman's face had gone pale. Miller stepped back into the shadows. Walter knelt beside Miles again. You're safe now, son, he said quietly. They thought they could scare you, but they just woke up something much bigger. 20 minutes later, the doors of the precinct opened again, but this time, the people walking through didn't belong to the local department. They were federal agents, 6 of them, in dark suits and bulletproof vests, badges flashing under the pale yellow lights. They moved with quiet authority, their footsteps echoing off the tile, like the sound of inevitability. At their center was a woman with sharp eyes and a tablet tucked under her arm. Special Agent Ramirez. She was known within the Department of Justice as the kind of investigator who didn't blink, didn't bend, and didn't need to raise her voice to make entire rooms fall silent. Walter, she greeted him with a brief nod. Ramirez, Walter replied, then tilted his head toward the boy. This is my grandson. Name's Miles, 6 years old, detained without cause. Her jaw tightened slightly. Understood. She turned to the desk sergeant. We'll need full access, all footage from today, booking logs, officer statements, and a complete list of everyone involved in the detainment of this child. The sergeant hesitated. Ma'am, we usually require. Ramirez didn't let him finish. You're under federal review. You don't require anything but cooperation. Another agent walked briskly to the evidence room. A third began securing terminals. A fourth plugged a data scanner into the precinct's central server. The mood shifted. The usual cocky chatter of the squad room dissolved into whispers, then silence. Everyone knew something serious had just begun. Coleman stood rigid against the far wall, arms crossed tightly. Sweat beaded along his hairline. He hadn't spoken since Walter's arrival, but now, with the tension building and eyes shifting toward him, he couldn't hold it in. This is insane, he muttered, loud enough for the room to hear. All this over a kid playing outside. Walter turned toward him, slow and deliberate. No, he said. All this over you thinking a child doesn't belong. All this over years of unchecked behavior coming to a head. Ramirez's voice cut through next. Officer Rick Coleman, you are hereby suspended pending investigation into multiple potential civil rights violations, including unlawful detainment of a minor, use of force, and racial profiling. You will surrender your badge and your weapon now. Coleman's lips parted, but the words stuck. The pressure in the room was too thick. A federal agent approached him, hand outstretched. Coleman looked around as if searching for someone to save him. No one moved. He slowly removed his badge, then his holstered firearm, and placed both on the counter with a loud clack that echoed louder than anything else in the room. Miller, standing nearby, flinched. Ramirez's gaze swung to him. "You were present during the arrest." Miller nodded once, swallowing hard. "You're also suspended. Same charges pending investigation." He didn't argue, just stepped forward and repeated the ritual, placing his badge beside Coleman's. Outside the building, a crowd had begun to gather. News of the incident had leaked. Someone had filmed the arrest, and that video was already spreading like wildfire across social media. Protesters were arriving, quiet at first, holding handwritten signs. Reporters followed, cameras flashing against the precinct's glass doors. Inside, Ramirez reviewed the footage. A playback of the arrest scene showed Miles standing quietly on the grass, not a single sign of resistance. Coleman's approach was aggressive from the start, his tone hostile, his language laced with assumptions. The video had no sound, but it didn't need it. His body language said it all. Ramirez paused the video and turned it around so the officers in the room could see. "This," she said simply, "is why we're here." No one responded. No one dared. Walter stood beside her, arms folded, watching as the structure he had spent decades fighting began to splinter in real time. For once, there were no excuses, no cover-ups. The evidence was too clear, the moment too public. He knelt beside Miles again, who had been given a juice box and sat quietly now, eyes wide but calm. "You holding up okay?" Walter asked. Miles nodded. "Can we go home soon?" "Soon, little man," Walter said. "Real soon." Ramirez approached, kneeling beside them. "Miles, I'm very sorry about what happened to you. You didn't do anything wrong. We're going to make sure everyone knows that, okay?" Miles nodded again. Ramirez stood and turned to Walter. "We'll be pressing for formal charges. Internal affairs will take over locally, but DOJ will retain oversight. And if we uncover any patterns of abuse, we go bigger. You good with that?" Walter didn't hesitate. "Do it." By the time they left the station, the crowd outside had grown to over 100 people. Reporters surged forward shouting questions. Protesters chanted, signs waved through the air like sails in a storm. "Justice for Miles," one read. Another, "Let black kids be kids." Walter stepped forward to the mic set up outside the station. He didn't shout. He didn't dramatize. He just said the truth. "My grandson was arrested today for playing on the grass, for being a child, for being black." The crowd murmured, angry and affirming. "This is not just about him. This is about every child who's been made to feel unsafe in their own neighborhood. Every family who has to teach their kids how to survive being seen. But let me be clear, today wasn't just a tragedy. Today is a reckoning." He stepped back. The crowd erupted. Back at Gloria's house that night, the living room was dim and quiet. Miles was asleep on the couch, clutching his favorite stuffed animal. Gloria stood at the window, arms crossed, watching the flash of police lights still visible down the block. The entire neighborhood had seen it. They all knew. Walter sat in the armchair behind her, sipping coffee that had gone cold hours ago. "They underestimated us," Gloria said softly. "They always do," Walter replied. "But they won't again." Walter nodded. "No, they won't." She turned around, her face solemn but proud. "Thank you, Dad. You don't need to thank me," he said. "You raised that boy right. He knew how to stay calm, how to be brave. That was you." Gloria looked at her son, sleeping peacefully. For a moment, the fear of the day receded. In its place, something stronger took root. Resolve. Tomorrow would come with more questions, more cameras, more statements, but tonight, the child was safe. The truth was out, and the fight for something better had already begun. They say justice is blind, but too often, she squints at the color of someone's skin before making her call. What happened to young Miles reminds us that racism doesn't always shout. It hides behind badges, uniforms, and everyday assumptions. A 6-year-old riding a scooter shouldn't feel like a suspect. This isn't just about one child. It's about what kind of world we're choosing to build. As Gloria said, standing outside that police station, "You tried to make my son invisible. Now the whole world sees you." Let that be our reminder. Silence protects injustice, but stories expose it. If this moment moved you, even made you uncomfortable, don't look away. Drop a comment. Tell me what you think. Share this with someone who needs to see it. And if you believe stories like this matter, hit that subscribe button. Not because it helps the algorithm, because it helps keep the truth alive.